everyone. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about something I believe is super important when teaching English to young learners. Research in primary English as a foreign language classrooms. My presentation will consist of three parts. The introduction to my wiki problem of practice, WPP. The second one is my survey data, and the last one is my conclusion. So, for more specifically, I want to dive into how we can help primary EFL students reflect on the vocabulary they've learned. So here's the big question I would like us to explore together with my WPP. That is, how can we encourage these students to reflect on their vocabulary in a way that feels personally relevant, boosts their motivation, fosters autonomy, and improves retention? It is a fascinating challenge, and I hope you will find what I share today helpful for your all teaching journey. So, let's start by talking about why vocabulary reflection is what I would call a wicked problem. Learning vocabulary often comes down to traditional methods, rote memorization, repetition, but that doesn't always work. Students often lack motivation because the words don't connect to their lives. But how do we get them to take ownership of their learning outside the classroom? It's a tough nut to crack, and I believe we need a targeted strategy that blends pedagogy and technology to tackle it effectively. So now it's time for my survey data. To get a better handle on this, I conducted a survey called Enhancing Vocabulary Reflection in Primary EFL Classroom, Teacher Insight Survey. It is aimed at EFL teachers working with primary students, and the goal was to understand their perspectives on making vocabulary learning more meaningful and engaging. I got 15 responses, not a huge sample, but enough to give us some valuable insights. The survey took about 5 to 10 minutes, was completely confidential, and I'm so grateful to the teachers who took the time to share the thoughts. So what did my data say? Now let's dig into some of the survey data. First, the teaching context. I asked teachers about the age range of their students, the years of experience, and the languages their students speak at home. One standout finding was that 100% of students in this group speaking Vietnamese as their first language. So these kids are learning English in an environment where it is totally foreign to them. As for experience, the teachers range from a few years to over a decade teaching primary EFL. It's a great mix that gives us diverse perspectives. So next, what's about the current state of vocabulary reflection? The data show is not being implemented consistently, even though everyone agrees it's important. That raises a question. Why is that? Could it be that we haven't yet found the right ways to encourage students to do this on their own? So 60% of teachers do not consistently incorporate vocabulary reflection, even though they see its value. Nearly 55% believe students should reflect on vocabulary whenever they encounter a word, showing a reference for real-life application. 40% of Students struggle most with using words in communication, while 33% have difficulty remembering words after learning them. This shows a clear gap in reflection strategies, which affects long-term retention. So going deeper, I asked teachers, how can we encourage students to independently reflect on vocabulary in a way that ties into their personal experiences? And which strategy do you think makes vocabulary learning most meaningful? The answer was really telling, like the storytelling, nearly 50%, and gamified review exercises, 33%, for the most effective methods. Teachers believe consistent exposure for nearly 40%, and meaning practice opportunities, nearly 50%, are key to reinforcement. And parents, like 40%, and homework at 33%, play major roles in vocabulary reinforcement outside the classroom. Many pointed out that lack of personal relevance is the biggest barrier. This highlights the need for student-centered, contextualized strategies, think connecting words to their real lives. Some also suggested creative activities or digital tools could make a difference. So that's when speaking of technology, I also asked, do you often use gamified apps to have students review vocabulary outside the classroom? The result surprised me. Most teachers say no, despite almost of them agreeing that interactive apps enhance vocabulary learning. They also recommend some common tools like Wordwall, Baamboozle, Quizizz, and even Duolingo. This could mean we're not yet comfortable integrating technology, or maybe the tools out there don't quite fit the needs of young learners. It's something to think about, because gamification could be a game changer, pardon the pun, or sparking excitement in vocabulary practice. So when it comes to the impact of vocabulary reflection, the data suggests it's pretty minimal right now. Most of teachers observe improvement in vocabulary retention after using gamified exercises. 60% of them saw positive results after classroom discussions, and nearly 80% of teachers do not formally assess the impact of personal relevance on vocabulary retention. Among those who do access, nearly about 50% use student feedback surveys, but more structured assessment are needed. But I don't think that means reflection doesn't work. It might just mean we need better ways to measure it. Things like iterative, formative assessment tools could help us to see real difference it makes over time. So here is a slide summarizing the key takeaway from my survey data. You see, the active learning strategy works could include gamification, journaling, storytelling, while the technology enhances reflection could have like digital tools or formative assessments. And the challenges still remain is teacher workload, student autonomy, and equitable access to resources. So next part is what I think about the conclusion. So how can we address this problem? I've just come up with a few ideas based on the survey and research. So the first one is personalized journaling, which means we could encourage students to connect vocab to real life context, writing about their day using new words, or like collaborative storytelling. No, gamified vocabulary challenges like tools, Wordwall, Baamboozle, or Quizizz could turning into a game. And then collaborative storytelling, as they can use Braille or creative writing to make it fun and interactive. Next is about teacher training and resources. That in that, a teacher, school institutions could equip teachers with structured tools to guide reflection effectively. And the last one might be the assessment iteration. We can use a try, read, and report tests to measure progress and show students their growth. So these strategies aim to make vocabulary stick while keeping students engaged and independent. So looking ahead with some final thoughts, I'm excited to take these ideas further. My next step is to pilot what I'm calling the RCVF framework, reflective contextual vocabulary framework in real classrooms. I also want to refine how we use digital tools, making sure they are accessible to both teachers and students. It's all about testing, tweaking, and finding what works best. So, what are the key takeaways, like recommendations? So first, vocabulary reflection matters, but it's not reaching its full potential yet. And second one, their personal relevance is the missing piece. If we can connect words to student lives, we see more motivation and retention. And my recommendation for the future, let's keep experimenting with creative tech-supported strategies and give teachers the training they need to make this a regular part of their classrooms. So that's all for today. If you're curious to learn more, I've posted additional details on my blog. You can check it out at my website, and I would love to hear your thoughts or experiences with vocabulary reflection. Feel free to reach out to my email, and thanks so much for listening. And I hope this sparks some ideas for your all teaching. Thank you and goodbye.